Okay, welcome back to Inside the Trade. I hope that last video covering the basics of spread trading was helpful. In this next video, I'm going to demonstrate some powerful tools we use here to help locate spread trading opportunities. Then in video 3, we'll cover order placement and then trade management. What you're looking at here on the screen is the user area of our site that you'll access to find and create spread trading opportunities. The site itself maintains 500 days of historical data on over 8,000 stocks, which is about 4 million days worth of data. Then there's our pairs database located here, which not only stores a few hundred of the most well-correlated pairs, but it also gives the user the ability to filter them all the way down to only showing those pairs trading outside a certain number of standard deviations or within a certain slope range. Slopes are a fantastic indicator to use on pairs and baskets to determine whether the pair or basket is co-integrated. Co-integration is a much more powerful indication of a good pair or a basket than its better-known counterpart called correlation, which everybody seems to be more familiar with. We get into slope and co-integration further in our course. You should also know, as a registered user, we invite you to suggest pairs if you'd like to see them in our database and have them tracked by our site for the most opportune time to enter the trade on your pairs. Just send me an email with your pair, and keep in mind that each pair that's suggested by a user gets reviewed by me before I'll include it in the database. If you email a suggestion for a pair to be added and there's a specific reason why I don't see it as a good pair, I'll shoot you an email back and let you know why I'm not adding it. This area here is our basket trading engine, and in just a minute I'm going to give you a quick demo of how this tool can quickly and efficiently find many possible mean reversion trading opportunities. But before I do, I just want to make sure that I maximize your education experience here by explaining a couple things in advance. The idea for this engine came to me after making many spread trades using stocks as one leg of the trade and an exchange-traded fund as the other. I'm going to start by showing you where to find the holdings of almost any exchange-traded fund, and then I'll give you a quick lesson on exchange-traded funds just to make sure you understand them, and then we'll move over to some of the features of the basket trading engine itself. Exchange-traded funds, also known as ETFs, were created by banks as a way for you, the investor, to own a basket of stocks all at the same time, without having to buy each individual stock. So let's say, for instance, you wanted to have some exposure to the technology industry in your portfolio. In this case, you wouldn't have to go out and buy all 83 stocks that are considered the most recognizable representation of the technology industry. Instead, you could just buy the ticker symbol XLK. If you want to get even more specific, let's say you wanted to own technology, but you were really only particularly interested in owning software names. You could just go out and buy ticker symbol SWH, which is an ETF that represents 13 of the biggest software companies in the world. So let's take a look at how an ETF is assembled. Take, for instance, SWH, which again is Merrill Lynch's software ETF. When you buy the ticker symbol SWH, you are investing in software names only. To be more specific, here's a list of the exact software companies that you're investing in right here on Merrill Lynch's website. Their site not only gives you the names of the companies you're investing in, but it also tells what percentages of the fund you're most invested in. For example, by looking at this, I can see that Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT, equals 21% of the SWH ETF. The next largest held stock in this ETF is SAP, with 17%. So if I plotted a spread chart of Microsoft plus SAP on one leg, and SWH, the software holders ETF, on the other leg, you could see that because Microsoft and SAP represent about 39% of the holdings in SWH, that the spread is pretty tight. By looking at this chart, I can see that in the last year and a half or so, Microsoft and SAP have not been able to outperform or underperform the software ETF SWH by more than about 5% in either direction. This is due to the fact that from a mathematical standpoint, it's very hard for 40% of the holdings of an ETF to get very far away from the ETF itself. And that's where the idea for this basket trading engine came into light. By asking myself one question: how far can 40% of the holdings of any exchange-traded fund diverge from the exchange-traded fund itself? And secondly, how many different combinations of stocks within the ETF can make up 40%? So let's take a look at how we find this information out. First, I need to copy and paste the holdings of SWH onto my Windows clipboard. I keep the holdings for this ETF on an Excel spreadsheet because I use the ETF pretty often. So here they are. The basket trading engine is already set up to accept a copy and paste into or out of Excel. So I grab the ticker symbols in the left column, along with the weightings in the right column, and I right-click to copy out of Excel. Then I come over into my basket trading engine and I right-click to paste my tickers and weights. Over here to the left, I have some screening options to make. Since these are holdings of an ETF, and we are using an ETF as the second leg of this trade, I choose ETF from the drop-down menu. There is a way to use this tool without an ETF as one leg of the trade, but we'll get into that as part of our course later. For now, I'm going to choose ETF and enter my symbol for my ETF in this box here, which is SWH. Now I have a few choices to make. The first thing I'll do is tell the engine what percentage of the ETF I want to control using the minimums and maximums field. Since I do want to see the Microsoft SAP trade to be returned to my options, I'm going to choose a minimum of 39% and a maximum of 45%. You are free to experiment with some other numbers, but I usually keep my maximum under 50 and my minimum over 40. Controlling between 40 and 50% of an ETF in a spread trade creates some really tight spreads, just like the Microsoft SAP trade we saw earlier. The next thing I have to tell this engine is how many stocks I'm going to allow it to create these baskets. In this case, I know that my two largest holdings, which are Microsoft and SAP, can make up 39% of the ETF by themselves. But I'm going to have to give this basket trading engine a little more rope than just two stocks, otherwise there's going to be very few results. So I'm going to say, show me every possible way that I can control between 39 and 45% of the equity in this ETF by holding 4 stocks or less. That will create a pretty powerful list. The fact that the world software industry is confined to only 13 major stocks, and the fact that I can control almost half of the world's software industry with fewer than 4 stocks is pretty incredible. There are 2 other screening options here, which are slope and deviation. We're going to leave them blank for now, and I'm going to show you in a minute how you can use those to further refine your results. I'm going to click the Identify Groups button here on the bottom, and we'll stand by for a minute while it calculates. Okay, so here are the results. Currently, there are 103 ways you can control up to 45% of this software ETF using different combinations of the holdings of the ETF itself. The basket trading engine does not produce duplicates, so you'll never see the same result in a different order anywhere within this group of results. You'll notice the way the results are given back to you in this list is the exact same symbol formula format that eSignal requires in order to produce a spread chart. The first symbol will always be what I call the lead symbol, and it will be the symbol before the backslash. So in the case of the first result here from our basket trading engine, we get all of the symbols that make up 44.8% of the ETF in parentheses prior to the backslash. And then we get the ETF after the backslash as the second leg. We can see that in this example, the basket trading engine used 4 symbols to make up 44.8% of the ETF. In the next example, the basket trading engine used 4 symbols to make up 44.53% of the ETF. To the right, I can see that the basket trading engine calculated the slope of the spread for me by adding the closing prices of all 4 symbols in the spread formula for the last 500 days and divided those closing prices by the closing prices for the last 500 days of the software ETF to calculate a 500-day linear regression slope. Remember that the linear regression line is the red center line from video 1. The linear regression slope is just the slope of that line and provides you with the ability to further screen your results. Screening for baskets with a slope closest to 0 will find you the baskets that co-integrate the best with the ETF, because the baskets tend to never drift away from the ETF if the slope is close to 0. Instead, they just oscillate back and forth around the mean line, or the red line. So let's move on to some of the features we use to further integrate with eSignal. These features make it very easy to find opportunities fast. So if I wanted to see how an opportunity looked on a chart, I'd probably first sort by slope and move down towards the opportunities with a slope value closest to 0 for the past 500 days. Let's see how this particular opportunity looks on a chart. I'm just going to copy the formula right out of the basket trading engine into eSignal, since we share the same formatting as eSignal. I'm also going to build a quick line chart so you can see what this trade looks like. So you can see that these 4 stocks control 39.9% of the ETF, and that the channel width is about 14% wide by using my linear regression tool. So if I'm looking for a trading opportunity here, I would wait until I get this particular group of stocks to under or overperform the ETF by 7% or so. At that point, I have a pretty high probability that at some point in the very near future, this group will mean revert with the ETF, and when it does, I'll earn 7% on the dollar amount that I have in each leg of this trade. Again, this process makes trading as close to a job-like feeling as trading could possibly be. There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of ETFs, so these trades are not hard to come by, but you have to be able to analyze each ETF fast, which is where this basket trading engine comes in handy. Also, since there's a high degree of simple math in the trading plan, these opportunities are strictly arbitrage trades, since it's pretty tough for me to ever imagine 45% of the software industry never crossing paths again with the rest of the software industry itself at any point in the future. I wouldn't consider this trading style that of a hyper trading style. Instead, this is more of an active management role. I've known traders to be in a few hundred positions like these at any given time, all managed from an Excel spreadsheet on a laptop. At the same time, I also know a trader who only trades one or two particular spreads at a time, and he's very good at it. It really depends on your trading style and how far you want to go with it. Getting the margin to trade spreads is much easier than with other types of trading because each trade is so well hedged. In my first trading account, I deposited $15,000 in risk capital, and the firm gave me $600,000 to trade with, which seems pretty insane at first, but once you understand the degree to which you're hedged, it's really not that out of line. Let's move on a little and let me show you how we work with eSignal to streamline this process a little bit further. If I click on the Copy Formulas button here, the basket trading engine will add all 103 possible trading formulas to my Windows clipboard. Now you just open a new summary window in eSignal, which is really just a hot list of spread formulas you want to watch, and you paste them right into eSignal. Then you can open each one up if you like and set alarms at each level you are interested in each opportunity, and eSignal will give you an alarm when the spread reaches a certain value. Now I could also take this one step further by clicking the Refine Results link here. Then we go back to my original entry page and set an additional screen for slope. If I request a slope no greater than or less than 0.002 and hit the Identify Groups button once again, the basket trading engine will screen out all the baskets that do not fall within the tight slope range I've requested. So as you can see, by using a slope screen that is fairly close to zero, I've taken my 103 possible trading baskets and reduced them down to only those baskets that have a balanced equilibrium with the ETF itself and show a strong history of oscillating around the mean line in a stationary fashion. So now I simply right-click on the Copy Formulas link, allow access to my Windows clipboard, move over to eSignal and paste them into the summary window. As you look at the last 500 days worth of performance on these three baskets, you can see that these are perfect oscillating trade opportunities. Once again, setting alarms to be notified of when spread value reaches a certain level is as simple as a right click on the chart. Now along the way I did hit one speed bump when I created the system, and that speed bump is that eSignal has a limited number of characters that can be put into one row of the summary window. That means if your spread formula ever exceeds the number of characters eSignal allows, they won't all paste properly. So here's how I've overcome that obstacle. Instead of using eSignal's summary window, I have programmed one column in an Excel spreadsheet to link to any chart in eSignal that is set to the green linking color. So instead of pasting your formulas into eSignal where you might run into some character limitations, you can just paste them right into Excel. All of eSignal's alarm features still work fine when you do it this way. This allows you to store many more spread formulas since column A in Excel has many more rows than eSignal's summary window. So let's move on to the next video where I'm going to show you how we place all these orders at once and manage all the positions using Excel.